Hello, my name is Tim Brothers, and in this video, we're going to go over a scratch game that I call the Pet Shop. Here's an overview of the completed game. You start out with your scratch character, and you're able to go through a portal to the pet shop. Once there, you can select an animal companion from a dragon, a dog, or a unicorn, and then exit through another portal. From there, you can go to the end of the game. And in this game, we're going to specifically focus on looking at if statements, different costumes for your character, and storytelling. Before we begin, we want to get the basic movements for our scratch character. This will be 4 blocks, up, down, left, and right, each of which you will change either X or Y in the given direction. Remember, across the screen is X, up is Y. Then we're also going to have a region at the top of the game here where we are going to set the initial costume of the character and the backdrop and the location of our scratch character at the beginning of the game. Once we have the initial setup and movement of the character, we need to make portals. These portals are actually going to be sprites. So instead of being part of the backdrop, we're going to create another sprite. And when the 2 sprites touch, it will cause the backdrop to change. So the pet shop portal is a sprite. Here's the sprite code that's going to go with it. When the green arrow is clicked, we're going to go over into a forever loop. So this will just always go through this loop nonstop for the rest of the game. And we see that if the backdrop is the jungle, for us, that's the starting stage. Scratch starts in the jungle. That's where we want to show the portal. For all other backdrops else, we're going to hide the portal. Now, if we're in the jungle and if the portal touches the cat sprite, then we want to switch the backdrop to the farm. The farm is our pet shop. So here's an if-else structure with another if inside it. If we're in the jungle, show the portal. If the cat touches the portal, switch the backdrop to the farm. Else, we're just going to hide the backdrop at all times. Building the pet shop. In the pet shop, we have a bunch of different elements. The first thing, we have all the animals are different sprites. So we can use that same type of construct from the last slide. If touching, then we can do some action. So we have all the animals that are different sprites. Then we have the store owner who's going to say something. We have another portal, which is again a different sprite. So we have a sprite for the pet store portal, and we have a different sprite for the castle portal. Here's the program for the store owner. We're again going to have, when the green flag is clicked, a forever loop. If the backdrop is the farm, then we're going to show the store owner. Else, we're going to hide him. So again, this if-else structure, determining if something is true, if some condition is true, do some action. Else, do some other action. Once we have that, we want to say hello. We only want to do this when the backdrop changes to the farm. We don't want to put this code inside the forever loop because this loop runs continuously even when you're in the farm. So this would cause the store owner to continuously say the action. We only want to say it once. We don't want to say it forever. So when the backdrop is changed to the farm, he says hello. Now we're going to talk about costumes. The way that we actually get the character to have an animal friend is by changing costumes. So Scratch comes with a couple of animation or a couple of different costumes right now to show him walking. We're going to add one where he has the dragon as shown here. We're going to add another one where he has the dog and another one where he has a unicorn. You can select whichever animals you want to have as your animal friend. So here is showing how we can add this code into, or how we can add this illustration into the costumes. We first start off by going and selecting a new sprite, looking at the hourglass to find a new sprite character. Let's select a bear. So we're going to add a new bear to this. So we want to create a new Scratch costume. So we go to the editor. Here's the bear in the editor. We're going to use the arrow tool to select the entire bear, and then we're going to copy the bear. That's that button at the top. Once we copy the bear, we're going to go to the Scratch sprite. Down the side are all of his costumes. We're going to duplicate one. And in this duplicate costume, we're now going to paste the bear. You can grab onto the corner to resize the bear and then grab and drag in the middle to move the bear around. Once you have the bear in position like you want it, this is now seen as one character. So if you move that sprite, the bear and the cat will move together. The last thing we might want to do is reorder the costumes and then rename it to something that is meaningful. I'm going to call this one Cat and Bear. Once we've done that, we now have a new costume, and we can change that costume as we want the sprite, our cat sprite, to have different animals to go along with him on his journey. Here's the code to accomplish that. We're again going to use an if block. We're going to use 3 if blocks inside a forever loop. The first if block, if touching the dog, then we want to switch costumes to dog. If touching the unicorn sprite, then we want to switch the costume to the unicorn costume. And if touching the dragon sprite, we're going to switch the costume to the dragon costume. So I've made all 3 of these costumes in the same way that I made the bear in order to have 3 different changes that we can make the sprite go into to give him different animal companions. Here's the code that will be found inside each one of the animal sprites. When we click the green flag, we're again going to go into a forever loop. And if the backdrop is the farm, then we show the sprite. Else we hide the sprite. That's all the code that needs to go inside the animal sprites because they don't actually do anything. They're just an object so that we can touch that with our cat. And upon touching the sprite, we can then change the cat's costume. This is the simplest form of the if-else that we're going to use, but it's the same idea as the other ones. Because we want to use the same code for all 3 sprites, here's an easy way to copy code between different sprites once you've created it. First thing we want to do is go to one of our sprites and actually build the code. You can then go to the bear sprite and see there's no code inside the bear. So let's go back to the dog in which we've already created the code, drag it over until you see the bear move. That indicates that it's over that, then drop it. Now, if we go into the bear, we can see that that code has been copied over to the bear. So this is another way to move code around if you don't want to have to use your backpack inside Scratch. So here again is the completed story for you to see it. We can now see how all the elements are going to work together. We first have Scratch, and he starts out in the jungle. All the other sprites are hid. He goes through the portal. When the backdrop changes, they're now displayed. When the cat touches each of the sprites, we change the cat's costume to the ones that we've drawn. Then again, we have another portal that changes the backdrop and it hides all the other ones because they're only shown if it is equal to the farm. And again, in this, we've talked about if statements, costumes, and how you can use this as an element to help tell a story. I hope you've enjoyed this video.